I'm happy to announce that I have partnered with a company called BetUS.com, where basically you can place bets and all that good stuff. And as you can see here, you go to this particular landing page here, and if you use my promo code TKT for the Klown Times, you'll get 125% of the sign-up bonus. As you see there as well, and you can, again, use promo code TKT. You get 125% sign-up bonus, and you can win up to you can bet up to $2,500 by clicking this Join Now button right here. So you can see at the bottom, it's bet on the go. You can bet anywhere, anytime on your mobile device. Get your fast payouts, get paid immediately every time, and live betting, which means you can bet during the game, early and best lines. So remember, folks, go to betus.com where the game begins. What's up? What's up? Welcome to this special NBA Tuesday edition of the Klown Podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check out my website, www.theklowntimes.net. You also get the merchandise at cafepress.com. Search for the Klown Times Sports. Those links will be in the description beneath this video when I upload this to YouTube tomorrow. You can find it there as well. One more thing before we get started. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We picked up a lot of subscribers the past few weeks. Again, as I say at the beginning of every podcast, I celebrate the small victories because this is my little journey. So we're over 350 now. So when it's 400, it's over 375, I'll throw a party. It was over 400, I'll throw a party. So anyway, I'm Mr. Small Victory Celebrator, which, you gotta stop and smell the roses. So anyway, so please continue to like, comment, and share. And one more thing too, I almost forgot. Check me out on Facebook. When you're on a smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever it may be, search for the Klown Times, you'll find me there as well. So I mentioned NBA night. As you can see, two of my pals here from way back, I used to co-host the show with them, WMH on WMH, the ticket 1450 AM, the Weekend Adjustments. This is my squad here, Kevin McCune, and the guy who's not being too shy, Jerry Singleton at the bottom. So gentlemen, welcome back. How y'all feel?
Doing good. Great to be back.
I'm good, man.
Love being here.
Right on, right on. It's good to have you guys back because I've been thinking of you guys for a couple of reasons. A, we talked about off camera. The Bengals did shorten the Super Bowl, but they played their asses off. They're nothing to be ashamed of. It is what it is. The Rams were a little bit better. And, y'all acquitted yourselves quite well. And I think, this coming from a Steelers fan, I think your core, as long as Mike Brown and company do not screw it up, and get an offensive line.
That's a big ask.
Yeah, I know it's a big ask. Wait for that to shoot a drop. But I think as long as you get an it doesn't have to be a great offensive line, a competent offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. He got sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl. That can't happen. And again, Mike Brown, the owner, signed up the legendary Hall of Famer Paul Brown. As long as he doesn't get in the way, I think your core is going to be a problem in the AFC and the NFC and the NFL for the next 10 years. As long as Joe Burrow stays healthy, as long as you get a line to protect him, the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. And I thought about you guys throughout the Super Bowl. We're not going to get into the last penalty call that on third down. We're not going to do that. But again, you guys are going to go back to the 80s. Going back to the future when you guys were spectacular in the 80s. So again, I think as long as those things happen, Kevin and Jared, I think your boys are going to be around for years to come. So.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for the future. I know after the game, I watched it with my dad. I turned to him and said, "Hey, I'm sorry." And he said, "What are you sorry for? You didn't play." I said, "No, I'm sorry that this is the third time you've had to live through this. This is really my first." So Bengals losing the Super Bowl in the final minute, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm old enough to remember the first two. The first one, I was a little kid.
I mean,
it
was all house money this year once we even made the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's be real with ourselves. Anybody, if you had told any Cincinnati Bengals fan before the season that they were going to make the playoffs, they would, oh, hell yeah, but not believed it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And I remember like
hey, come on, Jared. I tweeted they were going to the Super Bowl before the start of the first game. I think
Did you genuinely believe that, Kevin?
I think I tweet it every year, but
exactly. Yeah, a buddy of mine, you probably see it on here, Andre Edwards. He's a fraternity brother of mine. He is a Bengals lifer. So we're about the same age. So he vaguely remembers the first one, but he definitely remembers the second one because we were junior high. And very long story short, you know, he said before the season too, he was trying to be realistic. He was like saying, hey, if things go right, I wouldn't be surprised if we were 9-8. That's what he said, on 8-9. He had no idea it'd be a Super Bowl berth in the Super Bowl, which arguably y'all should have won. So, but anyway, I know it's the worst when they say the worst way to lose a game, a championship game at that, is to be close because it's on the cusp of victory, only to slip away. But I was proud of how you guys performed. I was proud of how the city I live in, Cincinnati, came together. So it was a cool moment. I mean, again, it sucks that someone had to lose that game, but it was a good showing. And there's no more victories. I get it. You guys are on your way. I think you guys are going to be on your way. So again, as long as I know that Jared would say a big ask, as long as Mike Brown is getting no way, and as long as you get an offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, sky's the limit for you guys. Because everybody else is young.
102 sacks in 2 years. That's got to change.
Yeah, that's not good. And you know what?
You want to know something about that, Kevin? If
What?
you hadn't let Andrew Whitworth go instead of in favor of Cedric Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher, you might not have been in that problem.
Yeah, but you might not have been in the Burrow problem. I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe a better offensive line. They win that game against Miami a couple years ago, and Miami gets the first pick. I don't know. I'm glad.
Yeah. I know it worked out, and Whitworth got a Super Bowl.
Joe Burrow.
and good for Big Whit, man. He seems like a good dude. He was actually before the game. He was actually a little bit torn because obviously professionally he's obligated to the Rams, right? But he felt bad that he's going against his former team, which he still has a lot of love for. So whenever he goes to the Hall of Fame, it's going to be interesting if he goes in as a Bengal or a Ram. I think he may go in as a Bengal. That's just me how he talks about it.
I hope he does. I think it might. He got the Super Bowl with the Rams, even though he spent significantly less time with LA. He lives there.
Sure.
You know, I wouldn't blame him if he goes in with LA.
Of course. By the way, he's a good dude. So it's good to see him get his chip at age 40, believe it or not. And it's good for him. You know, it's good for him. But the real reason why I have y'all on is thinking about you guys, because we spoke about this off camera, just off a whim. Like the NBA preview show we did last year, where Kevin jokingly said that watch out for the Cavs and that big things are happening about the Bulls. But look what's happened. The Bulls start there. They're tied for first place in the East. And a wide open East. A very wide open Eastern Conference. It's not the Eastern Conference of old, where it's LeBron and everybody else. It's a wide open conference, dude. Where the top, I'm looking at right now, the standings, the top like 6 really are separated by 4.5 games. Like Boston's like a 6th seed right now, and followed by preceded by Milwaukee.
Boston's on a heater.
And you're a Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin. I know that you are a Utah Jazz fan first, but I know you like Cleveland. Philadelphia, and then Chicago, Miami tied at the top. It is wide open. You know, Toronto's knocking on the door at 7, and Brooklyn, if they get KD back after the trade, which we'll talk about later, with Philadelphia, they could be a problem too. But how about those Bulls, man? How about those Bulls and Cavaliers? Start with the Bulls first, Jared. So I guess that the DeMar DeRozan signing was a really big thing, right?
It worked out. I was skeptical when it happened. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was excited. I have made some comparisons in the past involving DeMar DeRozan's name that I'm not proud of, but that's okay. At this point in time, he's turned his career into, like a playmaker, and that's what's made the difference for him. Is that when he was playing for Toronto in the first couple of years with the Spurs, he was a gunner. You know, Kyle Lowry ran the offense. He didn't really move the ball too much and stuck.
Right.
And now he's essentially playing point forward. But he came into the league as a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard, and he's a point forward now. Can we just marvel at how quickly the NBA moves?
Yeah, it's truly positionless ball now. Truly positionless. But I don't know, is Lonzo Ball back yet from injury? Because he played a big role in getting off to that fast start as well, allowing Zach LaVine to play off the ball.
Well, LaVine's knee, I guess they cleared it. He got a second opinion, and they said, you know, they cleared him and everything's doing good enough for him to play.
Okay.
So he should be back. Lonzo Ball, they're confident that he'll be back by the playoffs, which bodes well. I mean, they're going to need to up the pace a little bit because when they come down to it's been better of late with the injuries, their half-court offense, because they ran a little bit more through Vucevic, which he's given up the most of any of the players that are on that team. And since he has the time to shine, he can show that he is a 25-10 a night guy. And everybody was saying the Bulls needed more of an interior presence. And while he's not a defensive interior presence, I'll concede that he's at least a passable help defender. And the team itself has played great team defense. And I don't care. You don't have to have 5 individually good defenders. If your team's playing good defense and your offense is peaking as a top 5 to 8 offense in the league, you've got a chance.
Right. And again, they have a chance. But you mentioned this off camera, Jared, before I get to Kevin's Cavs and Jazz. You mentioned that something that not many people are talking about, and that's the job that Billy Donovan has done in Chicago. I mean, keep in mind, it's the same guy who was in OKC those years with Russell Westbrook, and now he left voluntarily, I think, from OKC to Chicago, and is doing the damn thing. He's one of the few college coaches to be success in the NBA, outside of Rick Pitino back in the day with the Knicks, but you got to give it up for him.
Well, yes, I certainly do. One thing that he has always shown, even when he was coaching the Oklahoma City teams, which at no point in his career would anybody have called Russell Westbrook a good defender. He's the kind of defender that looks good because of his box score, but he never really was good at help defense. He always gambled. There was always troubles there. Sure. And James Harden, we know what James Harden does on defense. He's good. He's a passable post defender, all that fun stuff. And Kevin Durant can be the linchpin of a good defense. At this age, I don't know anymore, but he always built a good defense in Oklahoma City. And that was, for the talent that he had last year in Chicago, that was true as well. And then this year, he's got the team buying into what he needs to do. And the reason I think Coach of the Year should be a thought in that is because he came into this year with a clear plan for the offense, and it was right. Like, when you bring in a bunch of players, the Lakers are proof of it. When you bring in a bunch of new players, it takes time to coalesce and get together and figure out where the ball needs to go. And it just seemed like from the onset, that team had a good chemistry to begin with, and Billy Donovan was pulling all the right strings, and it's just continued all year, which that's saying something, that there wasn't really a period of time where the Bulls seemed to struggle on offense. They've, for the most part, been chugging along all season. Sure. And even through their big COVID absence list.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to say the same thing for Cleveland. At this point of the year, we're well past the midway point, right? So it's like each team's played over 50 games. So you are what you are right about now. So being that, I say all that because you can't really call what Chicago and later on Cleveland are doing, you can't call those flukes. Those are good basketball teams. They're well coached. They got young, damn good players, especially in Cleveland's case, who's really getting the job done. And, you know, I mean, again, props to Chicago. I mean, props to the Bulls organization. I mean, we could see in the we're going to Back to the Future, talked about the Bengals earlier. It's like a Back to the Future. You know, the Bulls are very competitive, and they're no fluke, man. They are no fluke, Gerald. That's how I feel. And yeah, now if the Knicks get their asses together, then then maybe they'll recapture those 90s glory days. But anyway, I won't talk about them right now. It's about the good. It's about the good in the NBA. We won't get to the real ugly yet. We'll talk about the good in the NBA. So speaking of good, I mentioned earlier, Kevin, your Cavaliers. I think even before the 3-team trade was it last year? Where Jared Allen and company went to Cleveland, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that was part of the Harden deal.
Right, correct. And now I think Karis LeVert is back in Cleveland, right?
Correct. Yep. And he was originally part of the Harden deal.
Mm-hmm. That went to Indiana. So
right.
So now you guys got a good collection of young players, and it's showing in the box score, right?
Yeah, and I think it's showing that maybe Brooklyn would have been wise to keep.
You think?
Next to Kevin Durant, next to Kyrie Irving.
Right.
I remember, I think, talking last year on your podcast about how I thought maybe, Brooklyn needed to be a little patient and see what those guys had, because I felt like they had more of a complete roster,
right.
More flexibility with Allen and LeVert next to Irving and Durant in that lineup, but they wanted to get the big star. And Cavs fans, myself included, they've been hard on Kobe Altman in the past since he's taken over as GM. But these last few years, through the draft and through moves he's made, I mean, he's looked like a genius. I mean, getting Jared Allen and getting Karis LeVert, and like somehow James Harden wanting to be in Brooklyn and that all that, and then not wanting to be in Brooklyn, somehow that worked out to the Cleveland Cavaliers getting Jared Allen and Karis LeVert. So you've got to give to Kobe Altman that he was able to orchestrate that. And when you look at what he's done in the draft, I was very critical of the Darius Garland pick. I think he played, I don't know, half a game at Vanderbilt. I'm kidding, but he didn't play much. He was injured the one that he played, and then he came to the draft and he looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the suit that he had. And I was like, who is this little point guard that's never played that the Cavs are drafting? I was super where I was like, we just took Colin Sexton. Now we're taking another point guard. What are we doing? But that's why I'm not an NBA GM, and that's why Kobe Altman is. Garland he's looked like a future star, and you add in like Mobley, I think is just the perfect, like, just for a rookie, just his quiet confidence that he seems to have. Nothing seems to faze him. And then the Cavs kind of gambling and going big with Allen and Mobley, and trading for Markkanen from the Bulls, who I think has benefited both teams. I think he needed a change of scenery. I think Jared will say that, but I think he's been a benefit when he was healthy to the Cavs at times this year, and kind of going opposite of the way the NBA had been trending as far as building a lineup. Has really worked for Cleveland. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm super excited now that Karis LeVert is added to the mix. It looks like as a sixth man. I'd prefer he start, but I'm also not an NBA head coach. So
there you go.
Speaking of NBA head coaches and coaches of the year, I think Donovan, he's up. He, like you guys said, you have to mention him, but you got to put JB Bickerstaff in that conversation as well.
Very much so.
I think you could see it last year after and I'm an Ohio State fan, so I forget his name. The Michigan coach that the Cavs hired. Somebody help me out. After they fired him, and Bickerstaff they fired him. He was just too old school, kind of ran it like a college. Players didn't really connect with him, and so I was like, man, they didn't give him much of a chance. But you could really see the players kind of start to have fire for Bickerstaff. And
John Beelan. Yeah.
Beeline. Thank you. Yes.
Beeline.
So, Bickerstaff seemed like more of a player's coach, and he's definitely fit with the roster they have, and they definitely play for him and they play for each other. It's kind of that feeling I got watching the Bengals this year in their playoff run. Not to throw it back to that, but just a young team that you can tell enjoys being around one another. I kind of get that when I watch the Cavaliers play basketball. They just enjoy one another, and they've got good personalities. They're a fun team to root for. So yeah, I'm stoked with where they're at. They dropped a couple games before the break, and I think that it was probably good that the break happened when it did. Hopefully they'll be able to collect themselves, and because you're right, the Eastern Conference, it is thick at the top as far as
it is deep, dude.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if you go on a losing streak, Brooklyn found this out. If you go on a losing streak, you can go from first or second to seventh or eighth in the blink of an eye. I mean, again, from seeds 1 through 6, they're separated by 4.5 games. I mean, that we hadn't seen. You used to see in the Western Conference like that. We hadn't seen this in the East in quite some time, right? So again, I think that, again, like
the
I said,
East is the better conference this year.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt, because it's not top heavy. It's so wide open. I mean, in the West, we might as well talk about it now because Kevin's also a Utah Jazz fan. At the West, it's really three. Well, I mean, even though Utah is at the outside looking in, as far as top 3, he's like, whatever. But you got Phoenix without Chris Paul now for quite some time because of a thumb injury, which is messed up. The Golden State Warriors are back. Who knew, right? And how about those Memphis Grizzlies? Ja Morant is like that dude, man. He's just acrobatic, athletic. He's like a younger, more in control Russell Westbrook, if you think about it, right? They're both almost the same size, 6'2", 6'3"-ish. So, I mean, the similarities are there. And of course, Utah at holding down the 4th spot right now. But we'll talk about Utah now. What is this, Kevin and Jared? You can chime in. What is there's rumors of another rift of sorts between just 2 stars, right? Donovan Mitchell and Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert. What's going on? Is this something that is going to result in a breakup? What's going on?
I don't know. It seems like, I don't know. These 2 are, I don't know, name a celebrity couple that's always on again, off again.
Used to be Kanye West and what's the name, Kim Kardashian, but they're divorced now.
Exactly. They hate 1 minute, they're best friends the next minute. I think right now they're tied to each other as far as knowing where their current success is going to be. But my fears were kind of allayed today as far as looking some stuff up, and Donovan Mitchell has been putting some statements out, reassuring that he's not trying to force his way out, that he wants to be in Utah, that he's committed to the Jazz. So I hope that's true. But as far as these 2, I don't know. They're hot and cold. Everything will probably be hunky dory here next month, and then come April there'll be another feud. It just seems like it's constantly, it's like Shaq and Kobe light. Diet Shaq and Kobe. They're never going to win anything like Shaq and Kobe did. Nothing, of note. I want them to. I don't foresee it right now in the current landscape of the roster. I don't think they're ever going to win anything together, but I think that they'll have successful teams. But yeah, I think there is a friction. I think ultimately there'll be a breakup, but I think it's down the road. I think that the Jazz would probably prefer that they would. I think when things come to a head, finally, I think it's going to play out the way Shaq and Kobe played out, where Shaq was the one that was eventually let go and traded and moved on. And I think that's what will eventually happen. I don't think it'll happen this season, though. I think the Jazz will probably sit right around where they are, 4th in the West. I think they'll probably win their first playoff series, probably lose their second one. It's probably going to be the same Jazz that they've been here the last few seasons. So.
Yeah. Well, I know.
And then Danny Ainge is going to trade Rudy Gobert in the offseason.
Yep.
So let me ask y'all this. You mentioned Danny Ainge and trading. How'd y'all feel about Jared? You can chime in first if you want to. I'll give Kevin a break because I know he's feeling his pain. Ingles. Y'all traded the Jazz traded Ingles. So I didn't know. I had no idea that he was going to trading block, and y'all have to educate me on what the Jazz got back in return for Ingles. But the Ingles boys like one of the first guys off the bench along with Josh Hart. So I don't. To me, that took a shot at the depth and the toughness. So I don't understand why that trade was made, Jared. I don't know if it says some light on it as well, but I don't know why the Jazz made that trade.
Ingles being out for the season didn't help. Seems kind of like it's one of those situations where they cashed in on trading his contract being out for the season because it's also an expiring. It just kind of seems like it's set up for Ingles to have gone away for 6 months and then come free agency time, re-sign in Utah. And then maybe not even that, maybe move on to a different contender. Who knows? Right. They just basically cashed in a contract that was giving them a 0 to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who may or may not be something. I mean, he's a heat check scorer and the tools are there to be a good defensive player, but it just hasn't clicked in New Orleans, which shocker, nothing's clicking in New Orleans, but another story for another day there. True. And he just gets traded a couple of times, and this is a change of scenery for him. So you're basically trading a 0 to get some type of production. I think that's what I took away from it. Kevin, what did you take away?
No, that's I think that's it. I think I think in Ingles you lose a guy that I think was a huge glue guy in the locker room, a fan favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know what what the comparison might be for the Steelers, but I know for Bengals fans, they can relate to like the CJ Uzama type of guy.
Yes.
I think what Joe Ingles was for the Jazz.
I agree.
He's only averaging about 7 a game this year, but he's still a big 3-point shooter. The guy that they brought back Jaron Mitchell, the Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's never really been a consistent 3-point shooter. I think his biggest claim to fame right now, no offense to him, is that he's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's cousin, and like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then they brought back how do you say, Juan Hermongóñez, I think.
Yeah, you said it better than I did. So
yeah, so really a couple backup players that are going to be part of the bench rotation. I have more hope for Alexander Walker, maybe as far as doing something than of note off the bench than I do from Hermongóñez. But I think it was just we want to get something because we're at risk of not getting anything, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting going forward because, again, the West is top heavy as you know what, and really no disrespect to your Jazz. I think it's going to come down between the top 3 teams.
No, I don't think the Jazz.
Right. So we'll start there. Let's just project this forward, right? Because there's like 24, 25 more games this season. So I'll start with you, Kevin. I'll swing it over to Jared. How do you think things will play out in the West? Like, I mean, again, we said earlier, at this point in the season, you are what you are, right? So with Chris Paul being out of Phoenix for 6 to 8 weeks, which is huge, right? You got Golden State nipping at the heels. I think there are, I'm going to look at the standings here right quick. They're 6.5 back of Phoenix right now. Memphis is only 8 back. So do you expect Golden State or Memphis to make a move? Do you expect Phoenix to keep the status quo? They're on a 7-game winning streak, by the way. Or any other teams outside the top 3, namely like a Dallas or Denver, that could possibly make some noise? So what do you guys? So Kevin, what do you think? I'll swing it over to Jared as well.
I think in spite of Chris Paul, I think that Suns will probably hold on to it. They're just another team. I mentioned the Cavs being young and enjoying one another. I think the Suns have that. They have chemistry, and Monty Williams is just a great leader, and they've just they've been on fire. And I think Golden State is kind of they came out guns blazing early in the season, and they're kind of treading water a little bit. Still 6.5 back in second place. I think I foresee them holding on to that spot. I don't think they let go of second to Memphis. I think Memphis, of any of these top three teams that we could see maybe take a little bit of a fall. I would guess at Memphis. But yeah, as far as who I see ending up with the top seed, I think it's going to be Phoenix. I think they're there right now. I don't see them giving up that 6.5 lead they have going forward.
Yeah. How about you, Jared?
I agree with Kevin. I know that doesn't make for compelling arguments, but a 6.5 game lead with 25 games left is very hard to surmount. Not saying it couldn't happen, especially with Chris Paul being injured, but the team behind him is just so good. And as Kevin mentioned, Monty Williams is just a fantastic leader, a good coach. And I mean, this is just more time for DeAndre Ayton to, take it a step further and work with Devin Booker. They work well with each other. So I don't see Golden State taking over second place or taking over first place. Although I'm deathly afraid of Golden State for winning it all, just for the simple fact that Klay Thompson's getting up for the big games that he has to get up for, and it looks like he's every bit of prime Klay. So there's championship equity there, and I kind of like Golden State more than Phoenix to win it all, but that's just me.
Oh wow, I'll be interested. That'll be pretty cool.
Scott, educate me real quick. In the 80s, was it? I know the Lakers won throughout the 80s, but was it the Celtics that kind of got a few early? And then the roster aged, but then they were able to come together and get another one late.
Yeah, see, this is how it went. If you look at the 80s, right, for representation, the finals or whatever, it really came down to 4 teams. LA with the most, they won 5, right? LA, Boston won 3. Detroit won the last 2 in the 80s, leading into the 90s, and Philadelphia 76ers. That's how insular the league was. So basically, because I know I'm getting slightly off topic, but I'm trying to bring it back for you. Because I remember when people were complaining and whining about Cleveland and Golden State dominating those 4 years, that 4-year stretch, people tend to forget in the 80s, it was for the most part, except for maybe Philadelphia, it was mainly Boston and LA, Lakers, going at it, right? No one said boo about it because it made for compelling television. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Chief, Big Game James Worthy. I mean, come on. I mean, it was just compelling as hell, right? But to answer your question about Boston, Boston won. They won in 1980. They beat the Rockets with Moses Malone, if you can believe that. Then LA broke through, and then they beat the Sixers in 81. Sixers swept them in 82. But then that stretch was Boston to LA, that 3 to 4 year stretch. Boston kind of tailed off at the end. That's where ended their dynasty. People were getting hurt. They were getting old and hurt, right? Bird started developing a lower back problem. And that's when they brought in, I forget his name, but he died, Reggie Lewis. That's when they brought in Reggie Lewis and a couple other guys. While they were still there, they were supposed to pass the torch off to Reggie Lewis and company.
Not Len Bias.
And Len Bias, I'm about to say. And kind of like
Len Bias was the one that passed.
Yeah. That was the late 80s, right? That was like 86, 87, I think, when Len Bias passed. I gotta look it up. But
87.
Yeah, 87. So basically, to your point, Jared, that was supposed to be the plan. And I remember that to this very day, because I grew up hating the Celtics, being a Knicks fan as a kid. I'm thinking to myself, damn it, how in the world are they getting Len Bias on that squad with Larry Bird still in his prime, but it was starting to, I don't want to say go downhill per se, but he was near the end of his prime with Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish and company there, and Dennis Johnson too, I think was still there at the time. So I'm thinking, well, this is not even fair. And then of course we know what happened.
Were you bringing that back to Golden State, Kevin?
Yeah, just that, I think that their window is probably this year and maybe another couple years out, and then I think it might be closing here soon though.
Yeah, I think I don't know when Draymond Green is coming back too, because that would help too, I think, with the toughness. But I said before the season, right, as far as Golden State's concerned, when Clay comes back, I thought that they would start to get their mojo back because they have the Splash Brothers back, right, and full total with Steph Curry, and with Draymond Green, and now with Andrew Wiggins is playing out of his mind, which helps, right? And so I think they have the right mix of guys. They got a good chemistry that's going as well. I just think that even without Chris Paul for 6 to 8 weeks, I think Phoenix has it going to the point it's going to be very tough for Golden State. Now, not to say that Golden State couldn't knock them off in the playoffs because they got the experience. And Phoenix has experience too from last year's finals run, but still, I think it will make a great series. I still think you got that team in Memphis that's not going to go away, because I know they made a slight run in the last year's playoffs as an eighth seed, given Utah fits. But I think that Memphis is one of those teams that are so young to know better, right? That they don't know better. They're just playing with like the Bengals with house money. No one expects the Memphis to be the third seed in the West right now and playing as great as they're playing. And I forget the guy's name from Oregon, who's on Memphis' squad. I forget his name, but he's the toughness guy.
Dylan Brooks.
Yeah. Dylan Brooks. Once he gets back and rolling, it's going to be even tougher. So I think the top three is going to be a dogfight that's going to be exciting as hell to watch. I really think that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get Golden State and Memphis as a 2-3 matchup in the second round in the Western Conference playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised especially if it's Golden State, if the winner of that series ends up winning the West. Speaking to Jared's point earlier, I just think that those three teams are, despite their records or games space in between, I think they're right there with each other. I'm thinking it can go either way. Now, one thing out west right quick before we go out east, and I try not to laugh at teams that are down and kick a man or kick a dying dog, but the Lakers, the misery is cracking me up. I grew up hating the Lakers. And seeing, I know LeBron's your boy, Kevin, and there's nothing personal with LeBron, but the fact that he tried to play shadow GM, bring in Russell Westbrook instead of Buddy Hield, which would have been a far better fit because he's a shooter. The Lakers need shooters. They don't have any shooters right now to space the floor. So it's a big cluster of what, and I think LeBron has 2 more years, another year on his contract. I don't have it in front of me right now, but either way,
It's up at the end of next season.
Oh, in the next season. So this is he has 1 more year on his contract. So
Yes.
The Lakers, man, I think this is supposed to be Anthony Davis's team going forward, but he's been hurt. He's been porcelain like a China doll. So I don't think the Lakers, I don't think they make it out of the play-in if it starts right now. I don't think they'll make it out of the play-in, guys. I really don't. It's just it's not their year.
Yeah, LeBron, I mean, this is, his career's come full circle where if you watched the NBA All-Star Weekend and you saw, Boobie Gibson playing in the celebrity game. I think the Lakers,
Wow.
Boobie Gibson shooting right now. But as far as he's now, at nearing the end of his career, he's on a team where he's still having to be the guy, still having to carry the team. And AD was supposed to be that guy to lighten the load. Yeah, it was a big gamble that, Anthony Davis, who had injury history in New Orleans, wasn't going to be that same Anthony Davis in LA, and they got one title out of it. It looks like that's all they're going to get. And I don't know how this ends. I don't know if it ends the same way where the Lakers roster is in turmoil and we get Coming Home Part 2. LeBron joins up with Darius Garland and Mobley. And no, I'm kidding. But
I don't think they want him back. That's just me.
Probably not at this point. Why would you take that cap hit when you've got such a good young roster? But it's for LeBron fanboys, it's unfortunate the way this thing has played out. And I remember early, before it all went down, I remember thinking, Westbrook, LeBron can make anybody work. Westbrook will take pressure off LeBron driving through the lane. Westbrook can take some of those drives. Now this is gonna be fine. They'll figure it out, and they just have not figured it out. And I never root for anybody to lose their job. I don't, but at the same time, you look at what's going on, and I don't know how you don't look to the Lakers head coach and
Frankie V.
Yep. I don't know. We're definitely, in the bubble, we got Indiana Pacer Frank Vogel. Right now we're getting Orlando Magic Frank Vogel.
That's well said. Jared, is there any hope for the
That
Lakers?
was a good one, Kevin.
Yeah, that was epic. That's a good line. That was a great line. I can't take credit for it, so you should hashtag it or trademark it or something.
The Russell Westbrook experiment didn't work out.
Right.
And then from there, what do you do with it? Like, that was your shot. You ultimately, instead of having Buddy Hield and one of Alex Caruso or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you chose Russell Westbrook, and it didn't work out. Like, that's you that contract can be traded for at this point John Wall again. Are you going to do that? I give the Lakers credit for telling LeBron, like, dude, you wanted this, now figure it out.
Right.
Like, we have nothing to give, and they don't.
Right.
Like a 2027 first round pick and Taylor Horton Tucker, what's that going to fetch you?
Right. Not a damn
so
thing.
it's So it's just, this is it. This is the team that he built this year, and it just didn't work out. And next year, I don't know what they do. They're not going to have much cap room. I know they have a bunch of expirings, but all those expirings are minimums. So I don't know where you go. And as for how far they go this year, second round, because LeBron's that good.
Sure.
He's not young enough to carry the 2007 Cavaliers to the title or just to the finals. He ain't young enough to do that.
No. I mean, my thing is, let's just say for the sake of argument, I think they're in the 8th spot right now. No, they're in the 9th spot. Damn. So say like if they beat Portland in the 9-10 matchup and beat the loser the 7-8 matchup. Okay, if they get that far, if they're an 8 seed, if they get as an 8 seed right now, they have the enviable task of facing Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. So, and even if they make a miraculous run that bumps them up a couple of spots to the 7th spot, they get the chance to play Golden State with the Splash Brothers, with hopefully a healthy Draymond Green, with Andrew Wiggins. And the Lakers don't play a lick of defense these days. So again, good luck with that. So this is it, man. I think after this first round exit, I think Frank Vogel's gone, and LeBron is going to do some soul searching because the rest of the league has passed him by. I mean, Phoenix is a lot better. Golden State's better. Memphis is a lot better. Even with the chaos that's going on in Utah, they're better. Dallas is better. Denver's better. That's 6 teams in the West. Top 6 teams in the West. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I think LeBron should team up with Donovan Mitchell. Just my favorite player, my favorite team in his career.
Nice. LeBron pushes his way out of Lakers, LA to go to Utah. That'd be something. From Los Angeles to Salt Lake City, that would be some for movies.
I know this is gonna sound like a hater, but at this point in LeBron's career, I'm willing. Father Time is undefeated.
Correct.
If he could be traded to Chicago, I don't know if I would want that.
Right.
I understand. I understand it's LeBron, but man, Father Time's gonna catch up eventually.
And he's going to take over your team. He's going to take over the offensive system.
And I would rather not.
Right.
I don't know. With DeMar DeRozan, Father Time's doing something different in Chicago, huh?
He's only 30. He's only like 32 years old. Come on, man.
Like LeBron is what? He's born.
Hey, the mid-range is open. Nobody wants to take a mid-range shot anymore, and it's open. So why wouldn't you go there?
Yeah. That's a lost art, man. The mid-range game is a lost art. And the days of analytics and three-point shooting, the mid-range game just been forgotten about. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, he's like, okay, let me get my mid-range game, break Brooks' record, and scoring string record, get the Bulls to top the Eastern Conference when no one expected it. And that's that. Well, speaking of the East, I'll wrap it up with this, guys. And plus, before I do that, even if you're Cleveland, I know this going home part 2 thing when you say you can never know. When LeBron said over the All-Star break, during the All-Star game, I'm like, there's nowhere in the world Cleveland wants them back. Because they're doing good. They got a good young core. They're buying into JB Bickerstaff. Does JB want that kind of problem with LeBron? And that, I'm not a big fan of the owner, but does Dan Gilbert really want that problem back in this building? Right? So again, this I don't know where LeBron goes from here, but bring it back to the East real quick. We'll start with Jared and end it with Kevin. Same question, kind of sort of with the Eastern Conference. It's deep as hell. It is crazy deep in the East. And this is the one awesome.
Where this is the conference where I think we all kind of might disagree.
Yeah, we probably will. But
go ahead. I am terrified being a Bulls fan of what their offense is going to look like in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So as me trying to be realistic, says I don't really think they're going to be competing for a title. If anybody recalls a previous time that we had spoke, I displayed much love for Ben Simmons.
Yes, you did. I remember.
My stance on Ben Simmons, the basketball player, stands. Even with the passed up dunk, fine. I'm gonna have to live with that. But that situation seems like it was so toxic. I am willing to at least see how this goes in Brooklyn. And if you get an engaged Ben Simmons, a healthy Kevin Durant, and even with Kyrie only playing half the games, and we'll assume he can only play half the games, Brooklyn's still the scariest team in the East.
Yeah, I agree. And, that's what including injuries to Joe Harris and a few other guys, key contributors too, that's hurt them. I mean, which is why I made fun of James Harden, because to me, if you're that guy, okay, maybe it's the old school me coming out, right? Maybe it's a 40-something-year-old me coming out. If you're that guy, you don't do 2 things. You don't make excuses. And you do what you can to will your team to victory regardless of circumstances. This is his chance.
Does he want to be that guy?
That's the thing. I don't think he's really that guy anymore. I mean, if people made him to be that guy, and Houston especially, but I mean, look, I understand him not wanting to be in Houston because they were rebuilding around him. I get that. I didn't like how he did it. I didn't like that how unprofessional he was. I didn't like that he had to put on his first of 2 fat man suits to do it. But I kind of get his frustration. But even if he really wanted to go to Philly in the first place, instead of Brooklyn, you on a squad with Kevin Durant, who's one of the most ego-less people, because he can play. He doesn't need the ball to score. He prefers not to do a lot with the basketball. That was damn near perfect for him. Even with Kyrie being mercurial with, we're not going to get political into the vaccination things or whatever, but even with that, you can't tell me that Brooklyn, even with James Harden, would be any less scarier, especially with Kevin Durant.
No, I disagree.
Okay, say
I disagree entirely with you.
I mean,
here's the reason I say that, because
okay,
can you imagine how toxic that situation could be? I come back to a toxic locker room.
Right.
Imagine you've played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's in some way, at some level, you played organized basketball.
Correct.
Imagine one of your one of your best players is only playing half your games. Can you imagine how hard it would be to get into a rhythm with anybody on that team?
And it would piss me off. I'll tell you what, it would really piss me off.
Exactly.
Really
so he goes to Brooklyn, and it's expressed apparently, like, if there was a big story on ESPN.com about what all went down in Brooklyn, blah, 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 yada, all that fun stuff. But It was expressed between him, Durant, and Kyrie when Harden came that he was going to take a backseat to them. He was just going to distribute. He wasn't going to be the man. He was just going to be the maestro behind it all.
Right.
Kyrie's not there. Kevin's hurt, and Harden's doing the same, thing he was doing in Houston. If he didn't want to do it anymore, I completely disagree with the way he went about getting out of the situation.
I do too.
I feel there's a professionalism that has been breached twice by him, but I can thoroughly understand why he would want out. And if he didn't get out, you don't have an engaged James Harden there. On paper, James Harden, if you have a fully engaged one, yes, you're right. But you don't have that James Harden.
Right.
So now you've basically gotten rid of him to bring in somebody who's going to be engaged, maybe not quite in shape yet, but come playoff time,
he's very
you got
motivated.
somebody who's engaged and who's ready to play, and who's an all defensive player. You needed better defense. You needed somebody to push the pace. Well, there you go. So yes, I thoroughly believe Brooklyn is much scarier without James Harden this year.
And a couple more things to add to your point. People tend to forget. They also acquired Steph Curry and Mr. Double Double himself. His name escapes me in that trade. So, what's his name? He was backup center.
Andre Drummond.
Yeah, Andre Drummond. So you got Andre Drummond, a rim protector, and guy who will do the dirty work. He's a walking double-double without needing the ball. And of course, Steph Curry, he can still line up from the outside, almost like Big Bro. So you have more shooting to go along with Patty Mills. And you have an interior defender, and just when Kevin Durant comes back, right, and then you have Ben Simmons, whoever he gets himself in playing shape, who's now ultra motivated. The only team that can stop Brooklyn on paper with that squad is Brooklyn. And as much as I love the Milwaukee Bucks, they're not Brooklyn with that squad. I mean, so
Kevin, what say you?
Yeah, just get in on this.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, has there ever been a more perfect team for somebody that does not want to shoot the basketball than the situation that Ben Simmons walks into? Yeah. Because, even if Kyrie's only playing half the games, between those games with Patty Mills, with Seth Curry, with Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons never has to take another shot for the rest of his life. And he'll be happy rebounding, getting assists, and doing what he is really elite at. So for him, it's a perfect situation. But I don't, and I think Brooklyn is incredibly scary. I think once they're all there, they just got to make the playoffs. I think that's, right now, what are they at in the 8th seed? But
the 7 AC. I'm sorry, AC. Yeah.
They just got to make sure they hold
6th seed.
Make sure they hold on these last 25 games, get enough guys back to end the losing streak they were on before the break. But I don't discredit what Philadelphia now has, because you've got a situation where you're right. Maybe Harden isn't that guy, but he doesn't have to be next to Joel Embiid. Yes, you lose Seth Curry, which, man, Doc Rivers.
That hurts.
I know he's not trading son-in-law, but you lose Seth Curry, but you have Tyrese Maxey there who's shooting at really 39 and change compared to Curry's 40% from three. So you're not really losing a lot. If you keep Maxey in that spot, and then you add a Harden, and if he's able to do, a glimpse of what he did in Houston next to Embiid, I think Philadelphia becomes very scary.
Right.
I'm always championing the Sixers. I don't really like them, but I'm always championing them. They haven't come through for me yet, but this might be the year. But as far as the rest of the landscape of the East, I think there's arguments to be made for Miami and their core. Tyler Hero, kind of, he's off his sophomore slump a little bit, compared to last year. He kind of struggled. And then I think there's always the argument from Milwaukee too, as long as you have Giannis. I do think the feel-good stories that we talked about a lot at the top of the show, the Bulls and the Cavs, wherever they finish in regards to how the seeding shifts, I don't have a lot of confidence in either of those teams making noise or deep playoff runs. Maybe one of them can be last year's, version of this year's Atlanta Hawks or something. But when I really look at it, not to be boring, I think it's those top teams with those top stars. Brooklyn, you guys touched on a lot, and I gave my 2 cents. And then Philadelphia is the team I kind of like a lot right now, and as long as everything clicks, and when Harden gets back, and then Milwaukee with Giannis, and then the Heat just have such a solid core and it's just a solid organization.
Yeah,
they're kind of like this of basketball. I feel like they're just kind of always around,
Yeah,
like I didn't. Steelers were going to make the playoffs this year, and then they made the playoffs. Like, it's just such a well-run organization, such a well-coached team.
They're tough.
You have to make sure. And they're number one in the East right now, so they have to be in the conversation. They have to be mentioned.
And they're just crazy tough.
And that's without Adebayo. That's without Adebayo playing much. That's without Butler playing much. I mean, that's. There's so many teams in the East. We could sit here and probably talk for a half hour on each one of them,
right,
and talk ourselves into each one of them winning it very easily.
Yeah.
I mean, like Kevin said, who's going to stop Giannis?
Right.
On any Eastern Conference team out there, who's going to stop Giannis? So if he does what he did in the finals last year, you can say good luck to everybody. Just like you can say good luck if Harden and Embiid develop a nice 2-man game. Like it's a mess in the East, and I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It's going to be fun as hell for watching Eastern Conference in the playoffs. It's going to be really, really fun. And how about this just to close things off? What if just fate? We're talking about the trains and everything, right? Earlier. What if just by sheer fate, the East comes down to Brooklyn and Philly? Wouldn't that be hilarious? That's probably going to be
disappointment television.
Dude.
Are you saying like Eastern Conference Finals?
Yes, Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, the basketball guys are going to set this up because to y'all both said it earlier. Both teams, when they're healthy and motivated, they're motivated now, but once fully healthy, do you see any team outside of maybe Milwaukee, maybe give a slight shot to Miami, stop it out of Brooklyn or Philly? I don't.
Miami.
Yeah.
Maybe Miami, maybe Milwaukee, but I mean,
Miami's not afraid of anybody. That's the only thing I can say. If anybody's got a shot to guard Durant and Giannis, or one or the other, maybe have to do both. Like I would be Adebayo, I guess. Like that would be the only team that I could see outside of the top 2 or 3 that could make a splash.
Yeah. It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be fun, and we're going to talk about it, especially once playoff time goes on. It's going to be exciting, especially out East. I'm excited. Damn, I love the NBA.
And, I'm always wrong, so the Cavs are going to win it all, so that's awesome.
Oh, my God. And on that note, let's call it. Thank y'all for tuning into the nice NBA edition of the Klown Out Podcast. Please continue to check us out on YouTube. Please like, comment, and subscribe. and share, because sharing is caring. And one last thing, get the merch, cafepress.com, search the Klown Sports, Klown Time Sports, you find it there as well. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe, stay warm, and enjoy the rest of the NBA season. We're out.